Here we are back for another, I don't know if I want to call them conspiracy theory exploration or what I want to call this.
A deep dive into
Into
the
what?
finer art of conspiratorial topics.
Yeah. So what we're going to do today is kind of define the term conspiracy theory and then decide if that's what we're doing, right? So
Sounds fun.
I sense sarcasm there.
Yes. At least we got my background to look at.
Yeah. Conspiratorial things going on there.
Yeah, but at least
All
not
right.
letting that guy do something.
So
Hey, it looks like Australia.
Australia's a lovely place to be right now.
Right.
So I remember hearing a while back that the term conspiracy theory may have been invented by the CIA, right? And you can't always believe what you read or hear.
Almost never.
Almost never, and that includes with the media these days.
Yep.
So
especially the media.
First off, let's see what Wikipedia says in terms of what a conspiracy theory is.
Okay.
So it says a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that invokes a conspiracy by sinister and powerful groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. The term has a negative connotation, implying that the appeal to a conspiracy is based on prejudice or insufficient evidence. And I'd say that's a perfect definition. But could you envision in which it might be plausible the CIA maybe not necessarily would invent the term conspiracy theory, which we'll dive into that a little bit.
Sure.
But where they could use this term to their advantage to discredit, right? Once it takes on that negative connotation, right? So something is said by maybe somebody on the inside gets some information, right? Like a Snowden or something. And
yeah,
they themselves don't say it's a conspiracy theory, but they get other puppets, right?
Well, Snowden's a perfect example of somebody who, if he didn't have the position he had and actually had that USB drive, full of the proof of what he was saying, he would be considered a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a perfect example.
Yep.
Of what you're saying. So Eric Snowden's perfect. And I urge everybody to read his book. And whether you agree with what he did or not.
Completely agree. But who do you think would have perpetuated that idea of it being a conspiracy theory, that he's just a lunatic? And
so he worked with that for the NSA, so it would be the NSA.
Or potentially the CIA, or potentially the FBI, or potentially some other
one of those groups,
agency.
Yeah, government. Let's just make it simple, government.
Yeah, the government overlords, right?
Yeah.
They would have discredited him any way they could find a possibility that it might work, right?
Right.
Whatever might work.
Right.
So, and I agree with you, if it wasn't for that USB drive, which he was very smart in doing what he did, then he would have been a conspiracy theorist. He would have been the conspiracy.
Right. He wouldn't have had as many people believing him as did.
And he already has a problem. Even with the proof that he has, people don't believe him.
Well, people with him, there's still some who think he's a traitor for what he did, and you can argue that. We're not arguing that on this episode.
No.
But yeah. So, but I don't think people don't believe him with what he said about the government spying on us with our devices. I think the majority of people believe him.
Okay, you're right. That's probably the wrong way to put it. So what I mean is people will argue like you're saying. So, and you're right, we shouldn't have opened up this can of worms with Snowden, but a lot of people don't understand why others come to his defense, right? And I do think that has something to do with the negative publicity he's received, right? Because if just the truth was out there, they may not agree with what he did, but they wouldn't think he was necessarily a traitor to the country.
Sure.
I don't think.
Okay, sure. But okay, so maybe traditional media, and I don't know what side traditional media is on the Snowden issue, but
yeah, they all seem to think that he needs to be brought to justice.
So they're losing their place of importance, and he got on Joe Rogan and he got on a bunch of other podcasts
Mhm.
and with more reach than CNN, and was
Sure.
able to communicate one to many to the masses, to the people that matter. Nobody watched CNN. Way more people watch YouTube than watch CNN or all the other news channels combined. So
It's not just CNN though, it's Fox News.
right,
It's
right.
all of them.
All of them, all of them. Sure. So he would have been called and still is called a conspiracist, even with proof that what he's saying is true.
Okay. So do you see that it's a possibility that the CIA, for example, they invented this definition, this
Yeah, I mean it's language. Language is can be a weapon. You know, lawyers do this all the time. Media does this all the time.
sure.
Take things out of context. Language is a technology. So yes, I don't know if it's exactly the CIA, but I'm sure they come up with terms to discredit people when they say things like terrorist, right? Or sex offender. I mean, these like you have to have definition that you have to draw the line somewhere, and we can go in depth on what's a real like what the public thinks of a terrorist and a sexual deviant versus somebody who happened to pee outside and was in the school zone. He wasn't even aware, like that's
Sure.
and the normal people know the difference, but the terms apply regardless.
Hmm.
And you are guilty until proven innocent in the court of
Public opinion.
public opinion.
Hmm.
So yes, that's of course I don't know if it's CIA, but yes, government and powers that be use words to their advantage, just like you and I use words to our advantage when we try to get a client or a student interested in one of our products or services.
Yeah, absolutely. And going a little further down in the Wikipedia article here on conspiracy theory, it says a conspiracy theory may take any matter as its subject, but certain subjects attract greater interest than others. Favored subjects include famous deaths and assassinations, morally dubious government activities, suppressed technologies, and false flag terrorism, as you were just saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Among the longest standing and most widely recognized conspiracy theories are notions condemning the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the 1969 Apollo moon landings, and the 9/11 terrorist attacks, as well as
yeah.
numerous theories pertaining to alleged plots for world domination by various groups, both real and imaginary.
So what they do, the powers that be, I hate they. You have to define who you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree, but in this case, it's a very broad net, right? When you say they, I agree, but in this case, I don't think you can actually define for certain what they is,
The
right?
powers that be. You can be a
Sure.
little less vague than they.
Well, because they, if you don't use they, then it has to be quantifiable, right? In terms of who, right? But you never know who these people are. So I think you have to have a vague term like they. For example, yeah, I forget the guy's name. The guy you like, the Indian guy.
Sadhguru?
No,
Oh,
no.
Chamath
Yeah, Chamath.
Palihapitiya?
Chamath.
Yeah,
He says there's 150 people in the world that controls the world, right? And you have no
yeah.
clue who these people are. And he doesn't say who they are, but he says he wants to become one of those 150, right? So, and
Yeah,
even he's speaking in very vague terms, right? 150
right,
people.
right.
There's no real specifics to that other than the number. So I don't think you know for certain who's in power,
The
right?
powers that be, the ones trying to influence.
But who are they?
I don't know.
That's
I
what I'm
mean, well,
exactly. So
that's
it's
a different
they,
video. That's like
but that's the
Illuminati,
they. But is it?
Bilderberger,
Sure.
CFR.
I mean, you could even argue who's currently president of the United States. I mean, there's a conspiracy theory behind that.
Sure, they're puppets. I mean, yeah. I okay. So yeah, conspiracy theory is used to discredit. They lump people like Eric Snowden in together with people like flat earth theorists.
Right, or we've never landed on the moon.
They put them together just like they lump together a real pedophile who's raped girls, little girls, with a guy who had to take a piss and did it in like around a school somewhere without knowing.
Right.
That's the same thing as what happened with Eric Snowden. He got lumped into the flat earth theorist, same camp, in attempt to discredit him. Now one is official, so you can officially be a sexual deviant or whatever they call it, versus a unofficial conspiracy theorist, and it's even easier to then throw that around because it's not official, it's just subjective.
Agreed.
They might consider us conspiracy theorists for defining what a conspiracy theory is.
Well, I don't think they would go that route, but they may
They
say,
might look at my background. All they got to do is say, look at this guy's background.
sure. All right. So, just moving on a little bit here. So, what we're doing with this, with these videos, right? Is this a conspiratorial channel, or because the first video we did was The Matrix, right? We don't
Yeah,
necessarily think that's a conspiracy theory by any means, right?
right.
It's not conspiratorial in any way, but
But
we
it's
can,
lumped into that same category.
kind of. It's kind
And
of.
again, is
I
it
don't.
being done to discredit that?
I don't think anybody's ever called Elon Musk conspiratorial for bringing up simulation theory. Don't think it's ever happened.
Let me Google it.
So I think a conspiracy, again, as stated by Wikipedia, I think you're trying to discredit certain information, right? That
Mhm.
people are releasing. Like one of your favorite entertainers, Alex Jones, he's definitely categorized as a conspiracy theorist. Like every time he releases a video, right?
Well, with good reason. I mean, he does it on purpose.
Of course, but oftentimes 40 to even as much as I'd say 80% of what he's saying is true, right? At some point in time, it's proven to be true. So,
Yeah,
I mean, and he does do some things that are never proven to be true in any way, right?
right.
But I would say that's more rare than the things that he does prove to be
No,
true.
he says outlandish things.
Right. But what I'm saying though, even when he says outlandish, there's still a vein of truth in
There's
there.
elements of truth in it. Yes.
But what I'm saying
Yes.
is he occasionally does say things that there is just absolutely no truth to it.
Right. And
100% false.
in his case, the overlords were the tech giants that silenced him. And right, because they said he's a conspiracy theorist and spreading misinformation,
So
which technically is both true and not true. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, he said things that were incorrect to drum up more attention,
right.
but that doesn't discredit the things he says that is true, like which is typically
But it
the
does.
only thing I agree with Alex Jones on is like the macro is he keeps talking about government's constant grab for overreaching authority, and I see that as absolutely true.
Yeah. Of course it is.
And that's what I'm willing to agree with him on. But the other stuff, I mean, you gotta like actually look at everything he says.
And I agree with you. He goes way too far with he takes a tidbit of truth and it just completely blows it out of proportion, right?
But in a sense, it's dangerous also. I don't agree with him being deplatformed, but it is somewhat dangerous for him to mislead people because there are many people who believe everything he says, and that's a problem also.
Right.
In a way, he's weaponizing information as well, although
But
he's
see,
using it to generate revenue, but it could motivate people to do things that are not good for everyone else.
But once you have that tag that you're a conspiratorial individual, right?
Oh yeah.
You're not going to have any new audience for the most part, right? Because people just discredit you.
You might get more.
Possibly, but I doubt it, right? I think that tag just follows you.
I think Alex Jones got more popular after he got canceled.
You think so?
Yeah, I see him trending a lot more now
Interesting.
that he is canceled.
Okay. Well, maybe not. Okay. So that we don't run too long on this. So do you want to focus on conspiratorial things like landing on the moon? Did we ever really land on the moon? That kind of stuff? Or
Well,
what do you want to focus on?
we can't prove it. Well, this video, I think we just wanted
Well,
to
I think you
define.
can't. I actually
land-
think there is absolutely proof that we've landed on the moon. There's reflectors on the moon,
Oh, okay. So there you
placed
go.
there by humans, and there's a flag on the moon too.
And we could prove the Earth is round because I haven't been in space, but I've been high enough. When you fly international, you fly even higher than domestic. So you can
Right.
actually see the curvature of the Earth.
Right.
So,
And the
yeah,
fact that you can only see, I think it's 7 miles standing on the ground is because of the curvature of the earth as well. So,
there you go.
um, yeah, these things are easy to prove or, you know,
Right, but
not
I guess
correct.
so. What you're saying is the greatest conspiracy of all is that anyone who disagrees with what they're told is the truth is a conspiracy theorist,
Yeah. Yeah. But,
and that is the greatest conspiracy of all.
but the problem with that is it's fine if you disbelieve something you're told. Actually, I think that's a good thing, right? Like Ronald Reagan once said,
Skepticism.
trust but verify, right? Believe what you're told, fine. But once you verify it on your own that what you were told is true, I think there needs to be more of that personally.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Skepticism is good.
But again, we didn't answer, you didn't answer my question. What are we focusing on? These conspiracy theories or just whatever randomly we want to talk about? Because then
Oh, like
it
on
may
this
not be
channel.
yeah,
On this
then it may
channel?
not be a conspiracy theory.
I see. I thought you were meaning for this episode. So on this
No, just
channel,
in general.
just anything that's interesting to us.
But it
We
wouldn't
shouldn't put ourselves in a box.
okay, fine. But then I guess we're not necessarily going over conspiracy theories necessarily.
No. I mean,
Okay.
we are, but we're also talking about just interesting things that are possible. And maybe a better name for our channel, it's too late now, would have been like Healthy Skeptics or something.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of the vibe I'm going for, besides the reaction videos we do.
All right. So I just want to finish this off with this website here. It says there are two versions of conspiracy theory, right? On how this was born. The more extreme version claims that the CIA literally invented the term in the sense that the words conspiracy and theory have never been used before in combination.
Hmm.
A more modern version acknowledges that the term existed before, but claims that the CIA intentionally created its negative connotations as so to turn the label into a tool of political propaganda.
But
Which
this
I
is
kind
no
of
different
believe
than
that. Yeah,
any big institution. We just happen to live in 2021 where like our overlords is government agencies. If you go back in the dark ages when people didn't know how to read, the overlord was the church.
oh yeah.
And they would excommunicate people, basically canceling people. Same thing is happening today. There's nothing new under the sun.
I think during monarchies, they even punished you for learning to read.
Yeah, they did. But like back in the dark ages, they would they call you a heretic and excommunicate you from the church. Isn't that the same basically what happened to Eric Snowden? I mean,
Sure.
it's the same thing. It's just this is the modern representation of what's been happening when humans control other humans since probably shortly after Adam and Eve.
I'm sure it started with the cavemen, right? Those who are in power want to maintain their power.
Yeah.
By any means necessary.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
All right. Well, hopefully.
So to me, this is a human thing. It's not a recent thing. It's a human being thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's something most humans are born with, right? Once they attain power, they don't want to relinquish it. So they do what they have to keep it.
Right. Just like they call people who disagree with the left neo-Nazis, which is incredible that they're allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call people who disagreed with the church witches and burn them.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And they died a long time ago, and somehow they are still here. So it's just human beings that accumulate power is they, I think. And I think that's what Chamath is saying too. And he wants to be they. He's close. He's close.
So while you do believe, I guess, by the nature of man, that there are kind of evil inherited properties, right? I guess in the genes or by DNA. But at the same time, where you're very contradictory, because we've had this conversation before, you believe that human beings, individual human beings are good. They're born good.
Yes.
but yet
Uh,
they have these
yeah.
very evil.
I think the vast majority of people are good people.
Mhm.
I think the problems occur when people, the breakthrough, the good and the bad both happen when people get in groups. It could be a very good thing, just like a gun could be a very good thing or a very bad thing.
Certainly,
Uh, people
certainly, and I agree with the
socializing
groups.
into groups and organizing could be very good or very bad, depending on what they end up doing.
But
And
this,
that you can't blame, I don't think, the individual, because there's no one that's good or bad. I mean, even look at like the most advanced movies, the most sophisticated like plots. There, it's like the bad guy, the villain, but then they show you like their good side and they make you empathize with why they became that way.
sure,
And that's
sure,
closer to real life than
but that's still contradicting what you had previously said about 3, 4 minutes ago, right? So
Mm,
monarchs who have total power, right? Total. They're not they're not influenced by a group necessarily, right? It's not groupthink. It's singular think, right? Usually in a monarch.
but who's behind the monarch? It's the family and advisors and all that. It's not
Uh,
just them. They've where in history has there one monarch made all the decisions by themselves? Doesn't that
well,
hasn't
there's
happened?
been, oh yes, there has. Like for example, Caesar, right?
So he had no advisors, no
He had
council, no
advisors, but
nothing.
he was the ultimate authority, right? What
Yeah,
he
until he
said
got killed. So
went.
then somebody killed him.
Sure, sure. But okay, well, even in small, okay, let's take smaller dynamics, right? Like in a caveman era where there's 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
One person is not answering that has authority. They're not answering to the others. So I'm just saying, I think regardless if you're in a group or individually, once you have power, you want to keep your power, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we're all born good necessarily. That's my opinion. I think that we have many evil traits that you either need to recognize and fight, or well, they can run your life too.
Yeah. Well,
You
I guess
be
what I
one of those
mean by
psychopaths.
well, I guess what I mean by most people are good is most people don't most people are not bad. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily good all the time, but most people do not try to harm you
Okay, so
the
that's
majority
different.
of
That's
their
different.
life.
Sure, that's different.
Yeah,
They're
but if
not.
you watch media, the news, you're gonna see you're gonna think everybody's horrible. Like people are breaking into people's houses, killing each other. You're gonna assume everybody's like that just because of what you're seeing.
Sure, media does that intentionally. It's how they get views.
Well, yeah, that's rating. That's ratings.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we well went over our 15 minutes.
15 minutes of fame,
No, we
guys.
went well over the 15-minute mark.
Awesome.
I think we'll leave it there. What do you think?
Yeah, this one was okay for a beginning. We have to define what our purpose is here.
What
If a
we're
tree
doing.
falls in the forest, then nobody sees it, did it actually fall? I
Yeah.
get it. I get it.
Okay.
But thank you
I
guys
guess
for
that's one way to
watching.
look at it.
Let us know what you think about this. And let's get to some specific stuff next week.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Adios. Adios. Subscribe, like, comment, share, robot emoji. Thank you, Chris. Bye bye.
Bye bye.